I'm at Langar this morning, which is right in the far south of the county. I've come to revisit a site that Dillis and I surveyed a number of years ago for the Grizzled Skipper butterfly. And from what I've seen so far, any protection may have been short-lived. I'm surrounded by a number of twittering goldfinches this morning, collectively known as a charm of goldfinches, which is absolutely lovely really. It's a terrific term. What's the other famous one? A crash of rhinoceroses, if I remember right. I could be wrong, of course. But this morning I'm down at Langar, right in southern Nottinghamshire, and I've come down to the industrial estate which lies on the outskirts of Langar airfield. I've come to revisit an old site that Dillis and I surveyed for Grizzled Skipper a number of years ago. This is Langar, and part of the old airfield, but now used as an industrial estate. And a number of years ago, behind me, Dillis and I came to do an invertebrate survey. And the invertebrate survey was to determine whether the Grizzled Skipper butterfly was found on the land that was for sale. As part of the planning application, it was to be stipulated that areas of suitable habitat would be left if the Grizzled Skipper was found on site. We ultimately found, I think, recorded 3 different individuals, including one in the process of egg laying. Small areas were due to be left, and that was all agreed between the prospective buyer and the planners. The prospective buyer went out of his way to ensure that all the demands concerning the potential of Grizzled Skipper being on site were met. However, I'm not sure, I may well have a walk up in a minute and see whether he was successful, but all the rigmarole and obstacles that were put in the buyer's way don't seem to have been put in front of all the people's way. And now I've come down this morning, I see that the whole site has been trashed, bulldozed and redeveloped. It makes you wonder that whether all the protocols that are put in place to help protect, or supposedly protect species, vulnerable species, are ever adhered to. Is it all just a token exercise to have surveys done to determine what wildlife, whether it be common or rare, is on site? I think it is. I think the whole process is a complete waste of time, judging on what I see behind me. So it makes you wonder whether councils and planning departments from those councils are really bothered. You can probably assume quite correctly my answer to that, because I don't think that they are. How often are projects and planning developments stopped because of a rare species? I don't think they usually are. They might be held back while that species is removed off site and planted somewhere else. How often does that work? I've now moved on from Langar and I'm at Bingham. And this is part of the Bingham Linear line. And I'm walking down there, it opens up more. I'm going to have a look at more Grizzled Skipper habitat. Now this site is well managed and it's not over managed, which is something that I like about it. And you can see where some hazels have been coppiced just to open up this little patch. this is quite typical of this area of the linear park. There's another bridge down there, an old railway bridge, and after that it starts to open up and you start to walk on more on the track bed than on this tarmac stone surface. But it's a great walk, it's a lovely walk to come, well used by dog walkers and locals from the Bingham area. So I'll continue the walk down there and I'll show you how it opens up. Well, this is a view. I've just climbed out off the linear line and up the bank, and there's another small bridge. This would have just been a bridge purely for farm access, as is the one further down that you can see there. It's an incredibly popular site, and you're never more than a couple of 100 yards from anybody on a day like this. Today being Sunday, I dropped a bit of a clanger here coming on a Sunday, because obviously they're all off to church. But it's a good representation of the typical habitat. Now you're away from the more enclosed section nearest Bingham, and after the next bridge that you can see, it opens up even more, and ultimately you lose the embankments on this side, well, on either side, and you become raised quite considerably from the adjacent fields either side. Now the walls of most of the bridges are like this, covered in various graffiti. Even the archways of the underneath the bridges that have been under are covered like this. And in a way, in a strange kind of way, it actually looks good in this setting. I would rather it be here than on some city centre walls. And it's continually updated, especially the ones nearest the main road in Bingham, the access point. Wow, I think the paint's even, some of it might have been put on last night, it seems that fresh. No doubt generations of teenagers will have put their graffiti signatures on these walls over many years. And some of it is brilliant artwork, very talented, and not entirely out of place at all. It adds something to come in here, and it's well worth taking 5 minutes to have a good look at and appreciate, because there is definitely some talent. Now, on top of these walls, there's some loose mortar. And of course, loose mortar is there to pick up. And there's two things here. There's this potential weevil, but it could be Brutus. But look here, bristly millipede. Excited about this. This has really made my day. Lots of bristly millipedes. This group here, look, and then there, and there, in various sizes. Excellent. The weevils, or potential Brutus species, have potted up to take home. They need further investigation and photography. I'm continuing my walk down the Bingham Linear Park here, just outside Bingham, and I'm a few 100 yards away from where I left the car now. And already you may well be able to see that this bank, or embankment, is starting to become shallower on both sides. And just after the next bridge, that's when you start to lose the embankment on both sides completely. Then it reverses and you're standing proud with the surrounding fields. This site has some very interesting flora, some rather strange flora as well, which you may well presume that dropped off the edge of a train. there's a large pack of Lichnis dioica at the side of me. At least that's what it looks like to my untrained eye. Well, it was trained once. It's just gone a bit wild since. I think it's that one, but I'm not sure. I'll continue down there. We'll have a gander at the brickwork under the next bridge. Good that, isn't it? I do like good graffiti. And most of that seems very fresh to me. It almost makes it seem as though we're in New York, but this is Bingham. But it adds something to the walk, this graffiti. This wall on this other side is pretty much the same. Not as colourful as that one. And the most pleasant thing about it, I can't see a swear word. Where's my pen? Every so often, as you walk along Bingham Linear Park, you'll see flat areas of stone that have been piled up, deliberately piled up. And you get these from where the embankments become less steep and eventually disappear full stop. And these flat areas of stony ground are deliberate. They were put here to encourage the growth of the larval food plant of the grizzled skipper, which can be wild strawberry or lesser cinquefoil if I remember right. And this is it, this mat-like growth. In a few months' time, it'll be a mass of leaves. Female grizzled skippers, when searching on somewhere like this for a site to lay an egg, will often choose weak, straggly growth, often a little isolated weak plant growing in amongst the stones. They tend to avoid the more lush growth, apparently. But the eggs are quite easy to find, and in May we'll probably come down and have a look for ourselves, see if we can find them. I've never seen eggs of grizzled skipper, and I've never reared the larva either. There's something to do. Now this is typical of the rest of this length of the line, just hawthorn scrub alongside the old track bed. And just to the left of screen there's another area of stony ground created for grizzled skipper. And part of the work to maintain this site suitable for grizzled skipper involves cutting back of the bramble, which is a good thing. There's plenty of bramble on site, but not too many grizzled skippers. But last year I did manage to see one, possibly two, and they were both further down there. It's around this area last year that I got my sightings of grizzled skippers on this site. I did go to Saxondale, and visiting Saxondale was easier and much less of a walk than coming here, but I caught the tail end of last year's grizzled skipper flight period. It was a strange flight period last year, and the general consensus was that butterflies emerged early initially, spurred on by the super spring weather that we had. We had that very dry period, and that encouraged butterflies to emerge early. But then we had some less suitable conditions, and that effectively split the single brood of grizzled skippers in two. And then there was obviously a later emergence, and butterflies were reported flying later than normal. You never know what it's going to be like, but general, May is your time. So it's been nice just to have a little wander here along the Bingham Linear Park while I've been down this way. It won't be too long before grizzled skippers start to appear, given the right sort of spring and some decent sunshine. It'll be nice though if we don't get the springs of the last 4 or 5 years, where it goes really cold in March and April. This January, we're now on January the 30th, and January has been incredibly dry, and largely we've had anticyclonic conditions. I have a feeling February is going to be very wet.